Welcome to Amazing World Channel.
Theresa May, the Prime Minister, credit Tolga AkmenAFP. The Treasury is blind to the facts on Brexit and is being coopted by Brussels to make the UK's withdrawal from the EU difficult, according to a leading Eurosceptic Tory MP. Jenkin, a former director of the Vote Leave campaign, said the Treasury was legitimising EU threats of economic disruption as he said Theresa May should soon assert the authority of her office and walk away from talks. Mr Jenkin's intervention comes after the Prime Minister faced calls to sack Philip Hammond amid claims the Chancellor has been making Brexit hard and for being miserable. Meanwhile, Mrs May has also been urged to demote Boris Johnson over his Brexit interventions, but has been warned that the Foreign Secretary would just say no and reject such a request. Mrs May indicated that Mr Johnson could be moved into another cabinet role in a reshuffle at the end of the month, after she said she would not hide from a challenge. Jenkin credited Ian Jones for the Telegraph writing in The Guardian, Mr Jenkin said there is no intrinsic reason why Brexit should be difficult or damaging, but the EU itself has so far demonstrated it wants to make it so, and it has coopted the CBI, parts of the city, and, it seems, the Treasury to assist. They are legitimising EU threats of economic disruption. We are fast reaching the point when the Prime Minister should assert the authority of her office over the negotiations and call time. There have been growing calls for Mrs May to sack the Chancellor, with Tory MP Nadine Dorries saying on Sunday that if she was PM, the person I would be demoting, or certainly sacking, would be Philip Hammond. Another Tory MP told the Daily Mail the backbenchers are livid with Hammond because he pushed and shoved over the summer to water down Brexit. Mr Jenkin said the Treasury seems unable to hear any voices except those that reinforce their preconceptions. It seems blind to the facts, preoccupied with preserving access to the EU market seemingly at any cost, he said. People such as James Dyson or Anthony Bamford of JCB are ignored. Only a fraction of the UK economy is dependent on membership of the EU. Theresa May, the Prime Minister, credit AkmenAFP. He also claimed that the money being demanded by Brussels would be far better spent on being ready to leave without a trade deal, if no agreement can be reached. Brexit talks resume in Brussels on Monday ahead of a crunch meeting of European leaders later this month when they will decide whether enough progress has been made on the issues of the Irish border, citizens' rights and the divorce bill for talks to move on to trade. Mr Jenkin called on Mrs May to impose her vision of Brexit onto her cabinet and to be ready to quit talks if trade negotiations are not given the green light. He told BBC Radio 4's Today programme the Chancellor has led a very important debate about how we smooth the transition as we leave the European Union, but I think this has now got to be crystallised, and the Prime Minister should use the authority of her office to impose what she wants on the cabinet. It is clear that she wants to be a sovereign state after we have left the European Union, and she doesn't want a transition. She wants an interim period leading to a very clear free trade agreement which has got to be outlined in the initial exit agreement. We cannot have some long interminable transition that simply puts off all the issues that need to be decided as we leave the European Union. That would make uncertainty go on for those years. Mr Jenkin suggested the EU was just stringing us along, and there comes a point where you have got to dig in and walk away.